תדרוך עליה.
זה הכל שלה?
איזה שלה? הכל שלה.
למה, אבל כמה היא?
לא, חנה, למה?
למה? בשביל מה?
ילם.
זה לא עשה.
לא יכול להיות.
היי, מה נדיר?
זה אמיתי?
לא שלו.
לא שלא אמיתי! זה שקר! זה לא אמיתי!
השיער שלה, תראה, שמה, יפה. וואי, מה זה? מה?
מה זה, השיער שלה?
אתה רואה את הצמא שלה של 10 מטר? אתה רואה את הצמא? אני עומד עליה אחר כך, אומרת בחורה, פתאום אני מרגיש אותה, כבל נוגע, אני רואה את הצמא שלה ככה. הצמא שלה איזה 15 מטר, מה?
Ay, guácatela, ¿qué?
Hello and welcome everyone to the Artist Focus series organized by Art of Sight Chicago, which is based on the console of the Three Fires. And so today I have the great pleasure of talking with Kineret Haya Max, a mother, an Israeli performance artist, and a teacher. Kineret's work introduces performance art as a process and a junction of actions and interactions within a public situation shared by the audience and the artist. I Am Here is the ground where she creates her work from. I equal her identity. The elements that structure and exist in her physical, cultural, and social body, such as curly lion hair, as we can see, North African look, a woman, Jewish mother, etc. Am equal her intention, her imagination, her target. Here equal this place, the history, the architecture, the story of the space, and the poetic moment. And also Kineret has been, for many years, teaching performance art throughout Israel. Kineret, thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure for me to be with you and all the month that we've been exchanging together. Thank you.
Thank you, Martine, and Caron, and everybody else. I am very happy. It's a pleasure to be here talking to you.
And so before we start with the questions, we've got, just to put the people in context, we met, I believe it's almost 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
And that was at Viva Art Action in Montreal, the Festival of Performance Art. And then on the same year, I think it's 2013, then we met again in Tel Aviv for the Zaz Festival where you were working at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I saw 3 works without even knowing you. And so the first one was in an old pool where the festival was happening. And it was dealing with the public as a material in the work. Mm-hmm. So this one was pulling, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the second one, body mass, which was actually happening in the public sphere, and where you were trying to equal your body mass with the trash that you were collecting at the central bus station in Tel Aviv. Mm-hmm. And so today we are going to cover 3 phases of your work. The first one is, of course, working in the public space. The second one, the idea of public space, which is shifted into the museum context. And the third one, where it's the idea of the self and your body being subject as an exhibit, including a constant conversation between the personal and the collective. Mm-hmm. So my first question, actually, we will be talking about the video we just saw, the braid. Mm-hmm. So you told me it was created 17 years ago.
Yeah.
So my question is, when you look at it now, like thinking about your practice, your actual practice, how do you feel about this work? Like, how did it felt then, and how does it feel now to look at it?
Yeah. So first of all, this work was the first work by definition that I did in the public space. And the braid that you saw was a rope braided to my hair in the color of my hair, and it was 18 meters long. And the 18 meters was not random. 18, the number 18 in Hebrew letters is Chai. Chai means alive. Or yes, and I think this is exactly where this work engage. It's the me passing you in the street,
yeah.
And then there is me 18 meters, a part of me 18 meters behind me that is still somehow part of me and alive. and you asked about how I looked at it then and how I look at it now, and what is the connection. I think it's a very interesting question, and I wouldn't stop thinking about this if you wouldn't ask me that. And I think that as a girl, as a little girl, my hair was always part of my identity. It was something people, touch, look, say something. I felt the girl with the hair. And I think around age of 10 or 9, I'm a daughter between two brothers. So I wanted to cut my hair short.
Right.
And I remember my mother telling me that, oh, daddy will be so upset. Um, I think there is something, of course, they didn't mean anything bad, but there was something about this private territory, like a part of my body, that is somehow connected to my father in a way that is not only my territory. There was some.
I don't want to cut you, but it's very interesting what you're talking about, because do you feel that it's something that is personal to you, to your family, or it's something that at the time and still like the hair are connected to being a woman, to the feminine side? Is it something that, I mean, okay, so obviously you didn't cut your hair. So do you feel that it was something imposed on you that a woman needs to be having long hair, or it's a decision of your own,
I think everything in what you said now exists there. Everything, all the stories about hair and girls and braid,
right,
is necessarily in this story. But I think what I was interested in is that a part of my body was already public, was already not only my territory when I was young, and then the first public sphere work I do, I give the audience, the crowd, the opportunity to be alone with a part of my body when I'm not there, but it's still somehow connected to me. And so this is, I think, this DNA. If you ask what about this work and the works I did after, of course, there is always a connection. So I think this DNA exists in both of the works, in all of my works. There is always a question about the audience and the performer.
Yeah,
And
it's
the
like a continuum.
relationship, yeah, and the relationship between them. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, thinking about this development of action, we're talking about a continuum, and I agree with you. I believe that we're making work, and it's changing through times, and we have different elements, but we're looking for something specific, and this something, like the DNA, you call it, it keeps coming back. It's at the core of what we're looking for as artists and as a person. And so, and thinking about the development of actions in the public space, you talk also, this is something I really liked in our conversation, it's about the public's mind, the public mind. And can you elaborate on that? Because it's interesting, because here on the Out of Sight, we focus on the public space, but then for you, the public space also can be transferred into the public mind. So
So yeah, I said it, but it's just something that is subjective for me, how I see this. I think every person is a container of experiences. It's like a human document of everything happened to him since he was born until today, and 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 from uh, the other hand, it's like all the people are like the machine, the body that we're living in is the same body. It's the same machine.
It's all the
So
same functioning. We all have a body.
functioning, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I relate to these two things. First, there is the core, and then there is the experience of the life experience, and then there is like the human, very basic thing that that we are all. If it's the same machine, it's kind of producing the same things. Of course, we are very different and individuals, and
Yeah.
but I connect to this. I think for me the option that we are all somewhere there. We are individuals, but we are also one organism. Is very interesting, and I think a public artist that is going to the public space, he's looking for the history of the space, for the actual materials that exist in the public sphere, and and then he relates to them, and they are already charged with so much luggage, and there is so much text in the public sphere. But I find the public that in the space, and the space that has public in it, and the meeting between the performer and the audience as another kind of public sphere, because the public mind exists there. So this is what I relate when I say public mind. I don't know if it, yeah.
So you personally, you don't need to be always in the public space to actually connect with this public mind.
Yeah.
Or the yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think yes, there is. I think the public idea the is exist where there is public. If there is public, then we can call it a public sphere in a way.
So it's like a conversation.
Yeah.
Between the two.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a conversation. I think every image that we are doing, even if I'm standing and not doing anything or doing nothing, it's already a text. It's a kind of a text.
I noticed that you refer a lot about language and text to to talk about the action, which is very interesting because it's already a language.
Yeah.
What would you say about that?
About the conversation or about the language?
The language aspect, the text.
Yeah, so I think I was starting to say that even if I'm standing and I'm doing nothing, I'm already a text, a woman standing and doing nothing.
Yeah.
And this is the beginning of a conversation. And it happened many times that works came to me from the phonetic word of the idea that came to my head, or from the actual text, or the name of the place. So it's like already a conversation when I starting to convert ideas with the place, with the text that exists. The text that exists can be also going to. I remember it was in in Poland. I came to Lublin, to the gallery there, and immediately when I was out of the, I took a train or a bus, and in the central bus station, there was a woman that I was talking to, and then she said, "Oh, you're Jewish, and you're in Lublin, and you're Jewish." And I don't know why she said that, but it was very
Interesting. Yeah.
it stayed with me, and then I couldn't leave it. And then for me, I was a Jewish coming to Lublin, and that was the first text. And then it starts, it's developing from that
Yes.
point. It's always, somehow I see the conversation element starts with a connection to the text or to the word. Yes, we were talking about museum piece.
Yes, we were actually going there. And yeah, so maybe I suggest we see it and then we can talk more about this one.
Okay.
The museum piece. Your first museum piece. That is going to be the second video. Yeah. Great. So this is, what's the title of this again?
My first museum piece.
My first museum piece. And we can see that you're very engaged with an intimate act of your entire body with the wall of the museum. And so how long did it take for the wall to actually melt with your saliva and everything?
Yeah. So maybe you want to bring some background, it was actually in this piece I'm taking a bite from the museum.
Yeah.
And how long it took? I mean, it took 40 minutes, around 40 minutes. And that
For
I
the
was,
actual wall to start.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like common knowledge that museums and galleries um, mainly have plaster walls
Yeah.
made from plaster, and plaster is very sensitive to acid, like as
Mhm.
my saliva.
Yeah.
And I think it's a process of melting. Actually, it's a lot of waiting. It's a lot of wetting the wall until it melts, and then I pick up and sculpturing in a way,
Uh-huh.
sculpturing the bite in real time.
Mm.
Um,
And
yeah,
this is not something you, yeah, we can see the image there.
yeah.
This is not something you could actually plan in advance, like the effect of it.
No, I just came to the manager of the museum and I told him to
Mhm.
that about the work that I'm gonna do there.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna take a bite from his museum. Just mind the conversation. Just mind the language. I'm gonna take a bite from your museum. It's
Yeah.
like public
It's kind of
institute.
strange. Yes.
And he said, "Okay, continue to my um, words." He continued them and said, "I want to see." He was laughing, and I want to see the artist who take a bite from my museum.
And did you think he was laughing because he didn't believe you, he didn't believe that you would actually do it,
Yeah,
or he wanted to
maybe
challenge you?
he thought about something like a metaphorical kind of speak. I'm gonna take a bite from your museum, but for
Right.
me, it was my first museum piece, and when I realized that starting to work on this piece, that this will be my first museum piece, then the work was already in this sentence that I understood, because it is a piece. It's my first museum piece. So immediately I understood that I need to take a bite. I need to take a piece from the museum, and not like usually put a piece in the museum and then
Yeah.
take it when the show goes down. So the and also phonetical, we're talking about how I hear things and how I convert them. Then piece in Hebrew sounds exactly like bis, and bis mean a bite. So that was
Beast.
my bis. So that was my first museum bite.
Mhm.
It's kind of, it's one
It's
of
a
the works
metaphor.
that
Yeah.
comes to me like in a moment. And I
Mhm.
and even when it came, I felt like it already happened. Now I just need to act and do it. But there was something in me, like the conversation was already there. But I didn't know that I will succeed to take a bite. And I was thinking, okay, maybe there will be a lipstick mark or maybe a bite, kind of,
Which
this.
is already something. Yeah.
Yeah, and but when I saw, I started to feel that, okay, I'm melting the wall,
Yeah.
and I started to and then everything started to happen very fast, but very clear.
Mm.
I was It was very clear to me that for the people that look at me from the side, this is not an innocent act. I totally look like I'm having an intimate relationship with the
Mhm.
museum.
Yeah.
Um, Inside the action, I felt it's just me and you here now, me and the wall.
Yeah, and that's also making me think that in your work in general, I feel like there's like a play often between the inoffensive and the radical.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if it's something that it's a choice, it's deliberate, or are you thinking about this when you're making a work?
I connect to that. I understand why you see that. I feel that through your question, I can understand something about my work. And when I start to work on a piece, I start with a notebook, with an empty notebook.
Each
And
time a new empty. Yeah.
every work. It could be a small work, it could be a big work, doesn't matter. It will always be a new notebook, and it's just a symbol for me that like the white canvas, like nothing is written, and I can write everything in this notebook. It has no limits. And I think when I find something, the moment I find something that something inside of me says, yeah, yes, I mean, here it is, or something like that, it's a moment that I find some beauty, and not beauty in the means of aesthetics, or it's more like a point, a point for life. It's something that I would like to see as an audience. I would like to share it with people. I feel like it's a reason to get up of the couch and get into the studio and buy a material or go to the space. It's a reason to get up. And this thing is somehow always a bit it's an answer for a question that I don't know. It's something that I didn't experience before. So the radical is already in it. And the inoffensive part, I think, comes from the part that I feel that when I understand what the work is, it already was. I feel it, okay. So it's, and then
there's like a parallel situation. Yeah.
And then I think this is the inoffensive feeling that you get, because it's kind of, this is for me being present. This is for me being here and now, because I'm not busy with how would it be, will I succeed or something. For me, the work already happened. Now it is really happening for both of us together for the first time, for the first time, for me and the audience.
And
So
then there's a conversation can happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had this idea of the bite, but then I was doing this with you at the moment, and you saw two videos, because the interesting thing that happened with that work, that another curator saw the work, and then she called me and she said, hi Kineret, would you be would you come to take a bite from my gallery? And then another one call, and it's okay if we ask you to take a bite from our museum.
So you became famous with this
No,
idea.
I had another hat, which is the biter.
The biter.
and the art spaces are like tapas dishes. You can come and taste. And I think we should also talk about the result.
Yes,
That
please.
is very, you cannot ignore. And when I finished the first bite, there was artist Benny Corey. He was near me, and then he was looking at the bite, and he said vagina dentata. And I thought, okay, it's there. And I thought maybe it's a suggestion of, is the museum is a boy or a girl, the female or a male? Because I used to, my interaction with museums is always like it's a male. It's something inside me. I feel it. I don't know why.
But it has been like this for a long time in the history. It's starting to change a bit, but we can
that was
still have.
comforting.
Yeah.
that was comforting, that to see the result about the that was the image. And it was also, I had a bite and I kept it, and it was a piece of the museum. Of every place I took a bite,
Yes.
it's a real material, and
And it's very visceral because it's there's something happening with the mouth. A lot of things, it's something from the inside out.
Yeah.
And so talking about this, the inside out, you also use a lot of the gaze and you talk a lot about this in your work. So can you talk deeper about this and how your inspiration with Lee Kong-yong also?
Yeah, I showed you that photo.
The photo, yeah. If we can see the photo, would be great at the same time.
Yeah. I saw this picture somewhere.
Thank you.
And
yes.
And I didn't knew that there is already it's related to a performance art artist. For me, it was just stunning, photo. I felt like everything I could ever say about performance art is in these 4 still photos. Everything I can say about the gaze exists in these photos. So it's all about where you're standing and where you are pointing at.
Yes.
And I think when you look at this photo, you don't need to add anything else. It's marking the circle, it's standing in the circle and saying here, or standing out of the circle and saying there, or with your back and saying there. So this is, I think, a very clear idea of the gaze. It's like when a painter paints and walking with, and the eyes are going to the model, to the I don't
The
know,
subject, yeah.
the subject and the canvas, and he's like zillion of times, like million of times, just going with the gaze there and here and there and here and there and here. So I think the same thing happens to me. But what I look is just life and something inside, and life and inside and life and inside, and I'm doing this so many times until there is some kind of connection, or sometime some kind of electricity happening. And yeah, it's I don't know, to isolate the gaze, it's a very interesting thing to do, because it's like it so goes without saying, the gaze.
Yeah. And you can actually see how a person feel looking at the eyes. It's somebody can say, because we have so much learning, we've learned so much phrases to say, oh yes, I'm good, but then you look in the eyes and something else is happening. So talking about that and doing nothing, which is already a lot, I would like us to get to the next work, the Haya work. Can you talk a little bit about, because you were talking about beauty that includes on discomfort and maybe sometimes even pain. So this work really addresses that.
Yeah, so I am you need a whole hour to talk about this work. But to make it short, it's a room with 2 doors, enter and exit.
Yeah.
And it's one-on-one work. Each time one person gets in. And I'm there in the white room, and the room is kind of an if to go to the braid, it's kind of an extension to my body.
Mhm.
I am the room is me.
Yeah.
And when you're getting into the room, I'm like a seismograph, reacting to every movement in your
Mm.
body by the word aya, which mean I, ouch, I don't know,
Ouch. Yes.
in each language.
Depending on the language.
In
Yes.
Hebrew, it's aya.
Mhm.
And there's also I inside, like I, and I,
Yeah. The
I'm
I.
seeing
Yeah.
you, and you're just, you're just being. You're getting in, and you're wandering around the room, and then you're standing, and you're thinking, okay, is there something, um, some places in the room that are more painful, are less painful? And no,
So
the answer is
basically, for the people to know is that every time
yeah,
people get in the room, they're
yeah.
alone with you. And then when they're doing a slight movement or trying to avoid, you say, Aya.
It's even something in their eyes. If they blink, if they move a small muscle, then I have like this small aya, 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 aya.
Until you get the quiet, but it's almost impossible to get the quiet.
Until, yeah, I think people for
Mm,
moments they just, they just leave. Some of them,
mm,
it was for 3 weeks, 6 hours a day, and
okay.
it was um there were like around 300 people in this room.
Mm.
Some of them stayed like more than half an hour, more than 1 hour, because
In the room with you.
nobody tells you to go.
Ah,
I'm
yes.
there,
Mhm,
and you can exit whenever you want.
mhm.
And when people choose to exit, so first of all, the opposite, the opposite parts.
Mhm,
Now, it's not me saying when the work is done, it's you
mhm.
saying as the audience when the work is done
When
for
it's
you.
finished, yeah.
So it's a bit like a painting in the museum, like you see something from afar and then you're getting closer because it's interesting, and then it happened
Mm,
to me many times that I was standing in the whole exhibition with 200 paintings. I was standing in front of one for 1.5 hour crying, and then
mm.
leaving the museum because I cannot anymore.
Yes.
So yeah, so it's the same thing because you choose when to leave, and it's isolate the actually the gaze of, and you as the beholder, you as the observer, you
Mhm.
can. And what it create at the end is that you are the show because I'm doing only one thing constantly, and you are and the people are coming and going.
They're
So
part of the work, yeah.
so in a way they were the performers. Some of them
Mm.
danced in the space, some of them, yeah, some of them just went to sleep, some of them cried,
Mm.
some of them hugged me, some of them were just, in another dimension, just
Yeah.
use it as a small retreat. And so it
Shall
was,
shall we? I sorry, I don't want to cut you, but
yeah,
I'm aware of the time.
yeah,
Shall
yeah,
we
yeah.
just have
Let's do.
a little taste of Aya with the
Okay.
song? Yes. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, when you leave the room, the Aya is
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
like
because you told me, I remember you told me you can go really high pitch with your voice.
yeah.
So I imagine some people were like panicking to leave the room, as soon as possible, I imagine. So we're almost at the end of it. So I really want to leave some time for the questions. So I'm inviting all the people, the audience, if you have questions, please type them in the chat, and I will just, Kineret, I will just read them to you, and we'll continue the conversation based on that. There is some comments. So, do you want me to read all the comments or just the questions?
I see the comments.
Okay, great. Okay. So there's a question from John Gregory Baume, who's saying, when does repetition become theater?
I would like to ask him back something because
that's good.
Yeah, but because I'm trying to understand what he means.
I'm not sure if John is still there. If which work are you talking about?
You're asking John?
I'm asking John if it was the theater piece, the museum piece, or the braid. I don't know, but anyway, just in
There's
general.
Another question from Shirel.
Yeah, there's another question. Yeah, so that was a question from John. And then when did the sentence, now he's talking about the museum piece, the biting.
Okay.
Because you said that you did it in different locations, different museums, I guess.
Yeah. So for me it was if I understand the question again, for me it was the fact that some people asked me to take a bite from their museum that was a kind of continuing, it was kind of another life for the same work, because I never repeat my works again. It was the only work ever that I repeat. So I guess he is talking about repetition, about doing this again and again and again.
Yes, exactly. That's what he's saying. It's like
because that was the only work I agreed to do again. I never do this because it was not like, can you come and and exhibit again the first museum piece. It was not asked that way. It was, can you come and take a bite from my museum? There was something in the question that was very personal. So I felt, okay, this is maybe a reason to come and to do the work another time. It was a question, so I do relate that. It was a question to me the first time that someone asked me to do it again.
Yeah, so then it's different each time, because not only it's a new museum, but it's also, like you said, personal to the person who's asking you.
Yeah.
And of course, all museum, well, we could say, taste differently, no? It says stillness versus nothingness equal how do you do nothing?
So it's an illusion. Nothing is not really something that you can do. But I think nothing is the state of mind that when you see that even if you're not doing anything, like you're doing nothing, there is so much exist already. So yes, I think nothing is an illusion.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so the other question was, when did the sentence "I am here" enter your practice? That's from Shirel. Was there a different anchor before that?
Interesting. I think before "I am here" came into my practice, there was something that today I cannot put in the center of my work, but it was kind of a center of my works then. And it was a word that accompanied me like over the years. It was circumstances, like art that being created because of certain circumstances. And still today I work with circumstances, of course, but I think I'm more in the abstract today, and I'm less in the circumstances. So the answer, I think, is this word, like working with what is, with what was already there in the space, is something that I will still do. But before "I'm here" came, then it took a much bigger part in my work. I felt nothing is by chance. Like if I'm here, there is a reason, like a destiny. I still believe that in a way.
Well, talking about working with context and everything, we forgot to look at the photos from the trash piece. Do you want to talk a little bit about this? I think it's a good way of finishing.
It's a work from 2013. And in this work, I collected garbage, trash from the public space of the central bus station in Tel Aviv, which is a huge place.
Yeah.
And I took the trash like when it was just, it was even warm. Like I could take a hot
trash
coffee. Yeah, and I for me it was time limited. It was 1 hour, and I mentioned that it will take me 1 hour to collect trash and to equal it to my body mass, to make it equal to my body mass. And so I was running a lot to take the trash and to collect it.
So you mean you were running outside?
Yeah.
Here we're going to see it.
Yeah, and I was and I was and I was weighting the nylon bags with the trash inside, and I was writing them on the wall, because there was indoor space of the performance art platform, and there was the public space, and it was in the same central bus station.
So you would go back and forth.
Yeah. So I went out and in and out and in. And yeah, after 1 hour, it took me 1 hour to collect the garbage in my own weight. And I think it was like visually, the conversation was, oh, how much space does one person trash is taking in the space? How does it look like? And it was like, it's also very relevant today for the climate.
Absolutely. I was going to say yes. Yeah.
And and where we are today is also, just we don't have the real observation
The real
of
measurement of what we,
measurement
yeah.
and yeah of what we're producing. So I limited the time, and I limited the place,
Mhm.
and I kind of equaled the and it was very large. It was like 4 times my body, the
Yes.
how big it was. And it was not very hard to collect uh, like really fresh garbage, fresh trash, in one
And
hour.
we go back to this continuum, because for sure at the time where you created that work,
Mm-hmm.
of course we were already advanced in, the climate change and everything, but now that we are in a very crucial point, this work resonates so much,
Yeah,
and but at the time you probably didn't have this idea, so I think that's what I find really inspiring by working with the context, is that sometimes we come up with work that have a resonance later on,
yeah.
So
I think yeah, it wasn't exactly in my mind, but it
mhm.
was in my instinct.
Right,
That
exactly, yeah.
that looking at this place, the very like the large um, central bus station, and looking on the consuming of
Mhm.
while you were waiting to the bus, and how and I think it mostly the cars. There are like small cars that collect the garbage, and they
Yeah.
are always there, like
Mhm.
24 hours in the central bus station. There are these cars and people that collect the garbage, collect the garbage, collect the garbage, collect the garbage, collect the garbage. I thought, why, this is crazy. It's a
Mhm.
crazy action. And so
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was not in my mind, but it was in my instinct.
Mm. And there's a question that I would like to read, uh, from Corinne from the Art of Sight.
Mhm.
You spoke about the public mind, but do you think there is a difference between the museum going public and the random outdoor public, and how they respond to an action?
Mhm. Um, the museum going public, you mean? Can you explain that, Martin?
A difference between the museum going public,
Like a public,
yeah, like
like
yeah, because you're like the, Kineret is the exhibit, you're the work of art in action, and
yeah.
the public are coming to you, um,
Hmm.
so the museum become a sort of a public space,
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
and so the museum going public and the random outdoor public,
Hmm.
how is it respond to an action?
Yeah,
She says, in the sense of a surprise, rather than knowing that they will see
yeah,
some culture, some art. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I think in this sense, yes, of course. When you're in the public sphere, like the real public sphere, you're entering something, and this something does not aware of it being something until it becomes an audience.
Right.
Until, like, I'm going to the market with this braid, and when I'm getting into the market, and it makes, the reactment, and it's like something like disturbing in the mind, like an image that you don't usually see, then you're becoming the audience.
Mhm.
And I think so, yes, there is this different, because the public sphere is like something you enter into, you're disturbing, you're changing something, you relate differently. And in the museum, it's like a white paper. Anything can happen in the museum. So you can write the direction of what will happen in the museum, and people are ready for everything. And yes, I think maybe in the museum, it's getting, in those last years, it's getting more and more part of the common language of the museum, that you might go inside the museum and you will see a performance art artist doing an action. It became part of the
scenery,
kind of
for sure.
materials that you can see in the museum. You don't need a special event. You don't need to say performance art event. It kind of became part of every kind of other mediums that can live in the museum in every day. So that is how I feel.
Right.
Like, so you're not expecting to see someone there, maybe, but when you're seeing it, when you're meeting it, there is also the wait, but this is just the hallway to the exhibition, and there is an artist doing an action in the hallway. So I think the museum expand, like there are more kind of spaces in the museum that can become art spaces, and more kind of relationships of how to exhibit works are exist in the museum when performance art is part of this dialogue.
Thank you so much, Kineret. This is a great way, a very fluid final. Thank you for letting us get into the all of your practice. And so next week, it will be me again, talking with Karen Ellen Spencer, same time, 6:15 Europe time, and I believe, yes, it's 11:15 Chicago time, Montreal time, 12:15, something like this. So be sure to come again and share the practice of somebody who's actually working in public space for a very long time. So very different, but it's always a pleasure to put different practices and be in conversation. Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. And thank you, Corinne, also for all the work. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Corinne.